Hey guys, this is Miss Maldonado, and I want to share with you what I learned about balanced literacy today in my training, and just kind of like how that helps us here in our classrooms, what that means for us in our school. So, balanced literacy. There are 5 components for balanced literacy, which are the read aloud, the shared reading, reading workshop, writing workshop, and our word study slash phonics. Word study is for 3-5, and our phonics is for K2. So I'm just going to do a brief overview of what each component is and what composes each component. And we will regroup at the end and kind of just do a brief overview again of what balanced literacy looks like here. So we're going to start with read alouds. Read alouds are very important. They kind of provide a shared experience for our students through a story that we can connect with whenever we're doing our mini lessons. These are about 15 to 20 minutes, and they're a high level complex text that they wouldn't read on their own. Some teachers use picture books. In the older grades, we tend to use chapter books, but our read alouds are very important for us. Like I said, your students will look forward to these, and we want to kind of think about the common characteristics that a good read aloud book has. There are tons of websites that have great read aloud books for us, and we want to teach our students to think about their reading. So metacognition, some teachers use little paddles that say thinking, and then on the other side might say reading, and they use these to show students, right now I'm thinking, right now I'm actually reading. And by modeling, we show our students what good readers do when they're reading. So we ask good questions. These are found, so they are planned for you. There's 2 lessons planned for you per unit. So they're found at the back of the units of study. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Again, read alouds are the springboard for the mini lessons. It gives you something to reference to whenever you're doing your mini lesson, but it's just a read aloud. And you have your students do accountable talk at the end. So you always plan for like turn to your partner and talk about what you think might happen next, or you talk about character feelings. You're going to want to stay in the same genre as your unit when you're selecting your read aloud. If you're doing a fiction unit, you'll be reading a lot of fiction books. A good read aloud has a before you read, an as you read, and an after you read. I put these sticky notes in my books and kind of help me know what I'm going to say about my story. So I introduce the book. You can do a sneak peek. You can do a preview of a text. I do picture walks when I'm in the younger grades, even in the older grades. As you read, you want to have pre-planned what you want your students to do. So do you want them to stop and think, stop and talk with the partner, write and jot, sketch, act, gesture, all those good things that readers do as they're reading. And of course, you want to have an after you read. So you want to be modeling to students that you ask questions before, during, and after, and you interact with your text. You're not just reading the words on a page. Each unit of study is 5 weeks long, but our district gives us an extra week, so plan accordingly. They do plan 2 to 3 days for you, so look at your unit of study and see what they plan for your read alouds. But the rest is up to you. So you have a freedom to choose your read alouds, which is great. I know a lot of teachers that love choosing their own read aloud because if they're excited about the book, their student is definitely going to be excited about the book. A suggestion can be that one person plans a whole week, and that way you guys can plan more weeks at a time, and then you guys just rotate the books. So person 1 can hand their books to person 2 for the following week, and person 2 hands them to person 3. And again, having those sticky notes already with annotations of what you want to say and what you want to ask is a great idea, because that way the person that takes your books from you for the next week already has those posted in the story. So like on page 5, if I'm going to have my students stop and predict, I write down, ask students to stop and predict. And I put it on my sticky note, I put it on page 5, and it helps me stay on track. Shared reading. So we did read aloud. Read aloud is our first component. Next, we have our shared reading. Shared reading is choral reading. So we're having all students read with us. This is about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's right now I'm going to talk to K2. You are building foundational skills whenever you're doing this. You are teaching students fluency, decoding, text directionality, and it's very important for you to do the shared reading and making sure that all your students are participating. This is what's going to help push our students into the next level for reading. For shared reading, a whole week is planned out for you, and your team decides how to plan for the rest. You can use poems, songs, chants, it's all fair game. You will use a warm up, and then you will have your story that you're going to read with your class. And that warm up, poem, song, chant, whatever, and book, you use that one on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So for the whole week, you use one warm up and one story. So if you want to plan this with your team, again, the first week is already planned for you. We have 6 weeks every 6 weeks, and you guys can plan accordingly so you can fill up your planning. K2, you will have big books from Fontes and Pinnell provided by the district. And remember to pick a just right book for your class. So you want it to be a little bit above your class reading level, just a notch above to push them a little bit further. You start with the warm up and then you go into the shared text. So normally done after the read aloud. And again, they have already planned a whole week for you, and you're going to use the same poem and the same book every single day for that whole week. By Friday, your students will know it. They'll be participating with you, and they'll have so much more confidence than they did before. K2, the big books that we have from Fontes and Pinnell also come with a small version of the book, so you can give these to your lower readers when they're doing independent reading time, and they can practice their shared reading on their own. And this will boost their confidence because they have the rhythm of the words and they've been practicing it all week. So this just kind of has a day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of what you do every day with your shared reading. But in your units of study, it does tell you each day what you're going to do. Okay, grades 3 to 5, you will do a poem for the week, and every day there is something for you to do with the poem. There's a 5-day structure that is provided by the district, and it's in our curriculum. It's linked in there. You can alter what you do each day to your liking, but always have that structure or plan on what to do with your shared poem because it helps move the lesson forward, and it also gives your students something to look for whenever they do get a piece of poetry that they've never seen before, and they kind of just go through the steps themselves. So have that poem of the week, and also just put it on a big like chart paper and have it there in big for your students. Some teachers hand it out to their students and they have a poetry folder. That's great. I personally had my students listen to the poem on Mondays without the text in front of them just because I wanted them to actually experience the poem. So it's up to you how you do that, but there is a plan or structure for you provided by the district. For reading workshop. This is for K1 40-ish minutes. And we say 40-ish because 40 is just a low number and we kind of want more time for reading workshop, but we know sometimes it's not possible. For 2-5, we do want about an hour for reading workshop. Guided reading is embedded in this time. It is not a separate time. So some teachers think that maybe there's a guided reading block. This is where you incorporate your guided reading. Reading workshop has 3 components. It has your mini lesson, which is 7 to 12 minutes, your independent reading, which is about 30 minutes, and your share time, which is 5 to 8 minutes. Your mini lesson, it is scripted, but read ahead and make it your own. You can highlight, use sticky notes, make like bulleted lists for you as you're reading and kind of know what you're going to teach and be familiar with it. That way you can make it your own. You can weed things out that you don't need, or you can add things in that you do need. But remember, you want to keep it short, 7 to 12 minutes. Your students are listening. They are learning from you. They can be on the carpet, they can be at their tables, but they have to be listening to the mini lesson. This is their focus of the day. And these are provided for you. After your mini lesson, you're going to say, okay, readers, go to your reading spot. You can grab your book bucket or your book bag, and we're going to go ahead and do independent reading. So this is not a time for stations. Some teachers do have stations in their classrooms, but when we do balanced literacy here, we don't have time for our stations. We want our students reading because when they're reading, they are learning, and that's how we want them to learn. That takes less prep time from you, and it gives students actually doing what we want them to be doing, reading. And last, we have our share, which is about 5 to 8 minutes. It's planned for you, it's in your book. It is purposeful and it shouldn't be skipped because it's very important for your students to come back and do the share. It's not just like, what did you read about? It's actually purposeful and planned out for you. Your mini lessons do have kind of like a flow. It will always have the connection, the teaching, the active engagement, and the link. In the mini lesson, whenever you start reading in your book, the mini lesson, it will be bolded where it says name the teaching point. And that is your objective of the day. So it'll say, like, today I want to teach you, it is your goal. That's your goal for your lesson. That's your objective. It's also found on the cover of your book. For reading workshops, so while your students are doing their independent reading after you've taught your mini lesson, that is when you're doing your small groups. When you're conferring, there is a section in your book that tells you how to confer, but that is not something you have to worry about right now. If you are experienced with the balanced literacy and you feel like you're ready for that next step and you want to read how to do it and follow the book, you can. But for now, you can just do your guided reading groups, do your reteaching during that time. You can conference with your students about what they're reading. But again, there are some ideas in the book for you. There is a section that I do want you to look at. For K1, it's called Transitioning to Partner Time, and it's a gray box. Also for 2-5, it's a gray box, and it's labeled Mid-Workshop Teaching, and it's in this section. And they just have ideas for you to stop your students while they're doing their independent reading and be like, hey guys, I want you to think about, and it gives them a tip, a reminder, or you can use that time to spotlight a student. So if you see someone, hey, Carlos, I noticed that you wrote down a prediction in your book on the sticky note. That is so great. Carlos, can you stand up on your chair, everybody? Isn't that something that great readers do? Wow. I think you can do that too. Do you think you can show me that you can do that like Carlos did? And just kind of like spotlight a student. But it does give you a little tiny moment to kind of make the students focus on you, give them that tip, that reminder, that idea, and then return them into their reading. You will always start with your mini lesson for reading workshop. These are your grade level TEKs, so your students should be in your classroom during this time. They should not leave your classroom during this time. They can be sitting with their AB partner so that they have someone to talk to. In your book, they might reference AB partners, so having a list somewhere where the students can look up and see the AB partner list so they know who their partner is, that would be great. You can always reference your read aloud. And a good practice also would be for students to have their own books, like a book box, a book bag, or something like that. For K1, I did want to mention that 30 minutes of independent reading is a long time, and the reason that your reading workshop is shorter is because students don't have that stamina yet for reading. So this is where it's shorter for you. Partner reading can be 10 minutes, so they're with a partner, and they can have independent reading time, which is 10 minutes. Again, this is when you pull small groups. There are no workstations. All students are reading during this time. For writing workshop, it is 45 minutes of writing. And look for the banner in your book that says mini lesson. The mini lesson is 7 to 12 minutes. And again, it has the same flow that the reading workshop has: connection, teaching, active engagement, and link. Also, your objective is in there. For writing workshops, students will sit with their writing partner. So these are separate from their reading partner. The writing partner is for a different reason, so you should have a different list of AB partners for your students. And it's 7 to 12 minutes. Independent writing is 20 to 25 minutes. During this time, you can do conferences with kids, check in with your students, give feedback on their writing. On the book where it says conferring in small groups, just ignore it for now. Like I said, do what you're comfortable with during your conferences. They do have, again, a gray box for ideas on mid-workshop teaching. So you stop your students while they're writing and say, hey, writers, I want you to think about, and give them a little tip, but they have some of those tips provided for you. Make sure that you look at the share banner. It's about 5 to 10 minutes for sharing time, and it's, again, purposeful. It is not, hey guys, let's share what you wrote. they actually have something for you to focus on whenever you're doing the share, and that the share is the closing for your lesson. Sometimes you'll have to pass something out that you'll reference to the next day on your lesson, so please don't skip this part. And phonics. For K2, you have phonics. For 3-5, you have word study. It is 20 minutes total on the carpet the entire time. So again, you might be on your desk because of COVID, and that's fine. But ideally, you would be on the carpet the entire time. Your mini lesson is 5 to 8 minutes. Follow the banners. The banners in your book is that little gray part that say like mini lesson on it. And it follows the 4 things: connection, teaching point, active engagement, and link. They do need a phonics partner, but this can be their reading or writing partner. So you don't have to write another A-B list. Phonics and word study is explicitly taught. Follow the banner and it says rug time. It's 10 to 15 minutes, and after your mini lesson, they have rug time. This is when they apply what they just learned. They're practicing with their partner. Sometimes they practice with their group, but that could be like a partner that sits behind them. And it's really helpful for them. There are 2 huge boxes that are part of the resource pack that you'll need to use if you're teaching phonics. Students will either be in a partnership or in a club, which again I said is for students. Then you have the extension. These are optional. Some teachers do all the extensions on Fridays, which is cool. But they're meant for you to do like when you're lining up to go to lunch or you're lining up to go use the restroom. And the extensions are also pretty neat. The trainer did recommend for you to look at those ahead of time and kind of plan when you want to do them. As a reminder, you do get 6 weeks to teach a 5-week unit, so you do have extra days to embed those extensions if you'd like. And as always, we end the lesson with a share, and the share for phonics is about 3 to 5 minutes. So I made this snapshot for us that we can look at and then you can review of what the 5 components are. We have reading workshop, we have the read aloud, the shared reading, the phonics/word study, and the writing workshop. I put how many minutes are reserved for each spot, and I also put kind of what you will be focusing on depending on your grade level. So that's just something extra that I added on there for you. I hope that this was useful. It kind of helps me feel a little bit better about looking at all these books and all these resources and knowing what's planned for me, what's not planned for me, and how can I plan for it. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope you have a good day.